Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Enough channel. In this video we're going to look at our tops, chops, traps and slaps for NRL SuperCoach in round 10. So pretty interesting week, lots of team changes and stuff. I guess a couple of them we get to have a bit of an extra look at, but obviously injuries and that sort of thing will affect our selection. So we'll get stuck in, and for those that are new to the concept or the channel, how it works is that if we've got a good pick that we're trading in, we'll give it the tops. If we're trading out someone that we like the look of trading out, we'll give them the chop. If there's a trading option that we're not too sure about, well, we're probably going to consider it a trap. And if we've got a trade out option that's not so good, well, we're going to give ourselves a slap. So starting off with the hookers, and the tops pick this week, we've gone with Connor Watson. Uh, so I guess it's two parts. Obviously, the first part is a nice little cash grab with his negative 49 break even, as you can see there. And I guess as well the Roosters covering round 13, which is nice. A little bit of an injury cloud over Brandon Smith as well might mean some more minutes in that hooker type role and time in the middle. I guess the one downside with Watson is it does look like they've got a very middle heavy bench, with Spencer Leniu coming back in, and obviously Terrell May, Nafahu White there as well. And I guess, I just talked about Brandon Smith. I've got him as the chop this week. So, not a lot of value in trading him out, but the break even means he's going to keep losing cash, which seems crazy at that low price. But, I think if you wanted to sort of pounce on him in round 13, if you need a hooker, say you've got Harry Grant going off to Origin, he could well sort of be at that bottoming out type price, and he only needs one good game, and he's back up in the prices. The trap this week, I've gone with Carl Lawton. So, for those that just are looking on SuperCoach as a casual sort of player and see, oh, there's a bottom dollar cheapie who's starting this week playing hooker. It's usually a good position for scoring. Yeah, don't fall for it. It's only 1 week with Lachlan Croker out with HIA. And if you look at his other scores, basically he comes on and plays 20 minutes or so. He tackles, passes the ball out of dummy half. That's it. There's no runs. There's no sort of attacking creativity coming out of him. It's just basically about feeding DC the ball as quickly as he can. So don't waste a trade getting Carl Lawton in, because you'll be stuck with essentially a bottom dollar player who becomes an auto emergency nightmare. And then the slap this week, I've gone with Blake Brayley, not the most popular ownership player, but I did see that there's a few people who own him who are trading him out. And I mean, when you look at the figures, it's 660k, break even's not out of control. The Sharks will cover around 13, 14. He's maybe a very outside chance of playing Origin, but I'd imagine there's a few ahead of him in the pecking order. So, I'd keep him at least until round 14, or even I think round 16 is when they have that bye. And then obviously you can reassess and move him from there. In the front row, the top pick I've gone this week is just Josh Curran. Nothing spectacular about the pick, but I guess he's a big advantage is he does cover the Origin period, and it looks like now with the Bulldogs injuries and the like that they've basically established him as a front rower, in that middle rotation. So I think the job security for that is fantastic. He can play big minutes. So, if you are looking for someone, he's dual position in SuperCoach, which is super handy also. But as we said, Bulldogs have great bye coverage, so get on Josh Curran. On the chopping block, I've gone with Ada Mariota from the Raiders. So obviously the Raiders on the bye this week, but I think Mariota's sort of done his job for us. Made I think about 100 and something K, which is really nice. But he probably has peaked in price for now. So Yeah, you think you can trade him out pretty comfortably this week. The trap this week, I've gone with Terrell May. So, people very excited about his 120 last week, and we know that he has got it in him. But, you know, as we talked about with Connor Watson, they are basically running a four middle forward bench. Spencer Lenu's back. Warrior Hargraves is back this week. Um, if Brandon Smith's okay, you'd imagine that Watson could spend some time in the lock forward position as well, which will cut into the other middle forward minutes. So probably not one to get on. Obviously, if you've got him, I'm not saying sell, but definitely, not one we need to jump on this week. Um, I guess obviously you look at the numbers there, the break even's better than Curran, but I think the minutes and the floor are a lot more positive for Curran. And the slap this week is on Sam Hughes. So I don't understand why people are trading him out. It's not like he's made a lot of money. He's still making some money. He was always going to be that slow burn. He's made 140K when, he hasn't really had. He maybe had one outstanding game where I think he scored a try. Got a bit of cash gen going, but other than that, he comes on. He's averaging close to 40 points. That's about right. Um, but yeah, he's still got money to make. As we said, the Bulldogs have great coverage for the buys coming up. So I think if you've got Hughes, I would hold. And then, probably round 19 um, is the time where you can look to get off Sam Hughes. In the second row, bit of a broken record here, but I'm going with Angus Crichton as a top pick. He's just killing it at the moment. So I think you've got to get on. At 700K, it's hard to get to. But he's still got a negative 52 break even, so it's going to get out of hand very soon. So I think if you can find a way, particularly you can see we've got Cam Murray on the chopping block, we've got a couple of other more expensive guys on the chopping block. We can use that money to sort of fund the Angus Crichton move. But as I said, Cam Murray on the chopping block, numbers are okay. It's just down to long-term injury. Um, we can't hold him that long. So get out of Cam Murray. The trap this week, I've gone with Ruben Cotter. Obviously, also eligible in the front row, but I already had Terrell May there. You look at the numbers again, quite good 600K, 19 break even. The issue is that he will play for Queensland in a few weeks. Um, and then traditionally, the back half of the season has always been a bit flat. So you're really only buying him for the next few weeks, and a few people might sort of suggest, well, they've got a great run the next few weeks, which is true of the Cowboys, but that's probably going to benefit the back line more so than the middle forwards, because especially if you look at their bench this week, it's a very forward heavy bench, probably three middle forwards and Heel and Lukey as well. Um, so, if it becomes a bit of a blowout, they could potentially rest Cotter to keep him in reserve for future weeks. So, I don't think, it was good he did well last week as an owner. I was super chuffed. But that's always been my plan all along is to basically flip him in round 13 um, because, he usually does his best work in the first half of the season. And Hamole Olakwatu, who I was surprised I saw a few people trading him out this week given that he's only got one more week and he's coming back in from suspension. If you were going to trade him, you should have done it last week when he was out for 2 weeks. It seems a bit silly to trade for 1 week, and then he'll come back and you'll probably want him back in your team. A nice little bit of symmetry there too. I just noticed with Angus Crichton, 702, 600, 712, sorry, 600K. Um, Olakwatu, the exact same price. Only difference is one's got a negative break even, one's got a positive of 52. So the halfbacks. So I've sat on the fence this week. I guess obviously we're looking to trade in Cleary, we're looking to trade in Hines. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? There's arguments both ways. So I thought, let's do it. Let's break it down. You make your own decision. I've got both of them already. I don't need to make the call. But Nathan Cleary, obviously, cheaper price, slightly higher break even. Also looking at Origin, so the cheaper price is good, but upcoming Origin's not so great. Um, Higher break even's not so great. A few people might say he's got a good matchup this week, but I guess that's everyone thinking about the Dogs over the last few years. Um, the reality is the Bulldogs are actually fourth in the league for defence. If you look at points scored, points against, I should say. Um, so it's not going to be, free flowing sort of points galore. In saying that, if anyone could break down Cameron Ciraldo's defensive structures, it's going to be Nathan Cleary, who was obviously taught them for many years when he was at Penrith. So, you know, there's arguments for, there's arguments against Cleary. Obviously, with Hines, argument for, high scoring player in the league, nice break even of 65. He can easily cover that. Downside is obviously the price, 1,000,000 and 500 or 50,000, which is a lot of money to pay for one player. Albeit, you're paying for what you get, I suppose. But the thing with Nico is he's playing the Storm this week. He plays Penrith in round 12, which is also another, I guess, blot on Cleary's record. Is obviously the two teams are quite strong defensively, so they could potentially cancel each other out a bit. So I think, if you're looking to get Hines, you might almost have to sort of bite the bullet. I'd wait till round 13. Between Melbourne and Penrith, his price should dip. Um, and, you can also check that he's not going to get a Origin gig playing in the 5/8 slot. There's a bit of talk about that too. So, you know, as much as it sucks to watch not having him, I think, the smart play is to hold off. So I guess realistically, based on what I've said, probably would slide Cleary up here a little bit just because of the value and the fact that he probably could go well against the Dogs this week. But I wouldn't be banking on it, which is why I'm a bit tentative. Plus, also, I guess you have to be prepared to hold him through Origin. Whereas with Hines, you can play him, um, and assuming that they sort of stick to the Luai Cleary combo. Um, that's New South Wales. Um, I think Hines would be the best option to have during round 13 and 14. But just the price is a bit prohibitive even, and he does have a couple of tough matchups between now and then. So on the chopping block though, I do have Adam Reynolds. Again, not most popular owned, but if you do have him, he's out for a long time with the bicep injury, so you can chop him. I did forget a zero there, but that's okay. I'm sure you can work it out. And the slap, I've gone with Jerome Hughes. So I guess if you've gone with Hughes as an alternative to the two big hitters, obviously he plays around 13 and 14. No issues with Origin. For what it looks like, it's just a precautionary rest 1 week sort of thing. They don't want to aggravate the injury, given how important he is to the team. Also, their backup, Jonah Pezzett, is out for the season. So they are going to really rely on Hughes while Munster is obviously in amongst the Origin. So, yeah, I'd hold, play your other halfback, whoever that might be for the week. Obviously, if it's Reynolds, trade out, get one of the guns. In the 5/8 spot, the top pick I've gone with is Tommy Dearden. So, as I alluded to before, the Cowboys do have a really great draw. So in the next three, I think it's Gold Coast, Souths, Tigers. And I think if you ask a lot of people who you'd think the best three teams to target for attacking players in Supercoach would be, I reckon a lot of them would rattle off those three. So Tommy Dearden, nice break even, that good run, covers round 13 and 14 after that as well. You'd imagine that he might be 18th man for Origin at worst. What they might do is say just run with like AJ Brimson for game one, given the Titans are on the bye, and then Dean could be the guy for Origin 2 and 3 if they want when he is on the bye. But even if he is, they usually let the 18th man play in the week before because chances are they're not going to get out on the field on that Wednesday night. So I think you can bring Tommy Dearden in as a sort of set and forget 5/8 option for at least the next 6 weeks, and obviously reassess at the round 16 bye. Tamari Martin on the chopping block, so didn't quite go off the way we hoped when we bought him in a few weeks ago at 300k. But that's how Supercoach goes sometimes. Doesn't cover round 13. So if you wanted to trade him out to Dearden, go for it. I guess if you wanted to trade him out to weeks, I'd wait a week. So I've got weeks as the trap this week. Obviously the numbers are fantastic. However, he's on the bye this week. There's no point bringing in a player on the bye. Could be a training ground injury, something, and you've wasted a trade for someone who's given you no impact in your team. So just wait next week, and then like my plan is probably next week go Martin to Weeks. Although I am very tempted to upgrade to Dearden this week. And the slap this week, and this isn't the strongest shout. I can totally understand people trading, but Ethan Strange, the only thing he might have going for him is having the week off to rest and recharge. Sticky might rearrange the game plan a bit like the trial game so that Strange is in the 7 rather than Weeks. But if you wanted to get rid of him, I can totally understand. If you upgrade him to Dearden, it's absolutely go for it. It's not a slap at all. But I really couldn't find a better option than I thought people were trading out that they probably shouldn't. So it's getting a little bit harder to identify some of these. I'm thinking about toying with the format for the coming weeks now that I guess our teams are fairly well established and people can sort of see the patterns quite clearly. More smart trades are being made, so we might have to sort of look at doing this a different way. Onto the centre wing, and the best buy I've got this week is David Armstrong from the Knights. So last week was a bit underwhelming, but I think it was a pretty wet track at Newcastle, so it's probably a forgive run to use the horse racing analogy there. But bottom dollar, negative 47 break even, playing fullback, which obviously offers attacking stats. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer if you're trading in a centre wing this week or you're looking for a downgrade option at all this week. David Armstrong is the way to go. On the chopping block, I've got Jesse Arthurs, so a somewhat popular player given that he was relatively cheap in what is an attacking team with the Broncos, but long-term injury, so didn't really make any money, which is I guess was the knock on him in pre-season. So I think you can comfortably get out of that. He's not much use to us on the bench. The trap this week, I've gone with Sui Falango from the Storm. So in his preferred fullback position, probably has good job security there, but we can have an extra look before we jump on. So he's only played one game. His price won't move this week. So a toughish matchup against the Sharks as well. We talked about how good the Sharks are defensively. So I'd just have a look this week. But I would get on absolutely as a cheapie next week. And the slap this week in the centre wing, I've gone with Jack Bostock, which when you look at his break even and you look at his last 2 games, you might think, I've lost my mind. But the reality is we've said that Bostock's advantage or usefulness is during those bye rounds. All right, and you might think, well, what's the use of carrying someone through the bye rounds when they're going to score 20 each week? And the counter argument to that is just look at what he did in the first 6 weeks, where he tore it up, scored tries, massive scores, got all the way up to 600k in cash. I will admit, if you wanted to sell, I wouldn't begrudge you, but I think if you can hold, even if he keeps scoring 20s for the next few weeks, he'll only dip down to about a 50 average, so you'll probably only, lose 100k or so. He still will have made you 200k, and obviously you've got that chance to be in the lottery to get the big scores in those buy rounds. All right, so around 13, 16, 19, if you're not aware, you only get the best 13 scores. So if you've got Bostock as your 14th player and he tanks, it's no harm, no foul. All right, but if he goes off, well, then obviously you cash in on that upside. So that's the argument for holding someone like Bostock is he could be a difference maker in the coming weeks. So on to the fullback spot. And so Scott Drinkwater is the top pick here. And I guess I got a lot of feedback from my round review where I initially sort of just downgraded Paps to Armstrong because I wanted to bring him in. And I sort of, wasn't too sold on trading out any of the centre wingers. A lot of people was like, no, you got to get Drinkwater in. They were suggesting trade out Bostock, but I'll talk about the plan in Thursday's review video, round review video that is. So, but yeah, Drinkwater's on my list to come in this week. We talked about the matchup. It's not a negative 93 break even, by the way. Oop, go back, stuffed up. Didn't mean to click. Negative. It's actually a positive 93 break even. Little typo there. I should probably proofread my stuff before I start the video. Which obviously, he's not going to make money this week, but if he can go large in one of these next 3 games, obviously the cash generation will return. On the chopping block, Ryan Papenhuyzen, obviously, sort of lower leg type injury. He's had a bad run with those, so I think the Storm will take the cautious side of things with his recovery. So I think he'll definitely be out until after round 14, which was probably his main point of difference as a slightly cheaper option at the start of the year. You could get him in, he'd cover the first buy, make a bit of money, and then you can move him on. Hasn't made that much money, but he has done the job for us. So thanks for your service, but we'll give you the chop. The trap this week, I've gone with James Tedesco, and it's sort of in line with what I was talking about with Nathan Cleary. The numbers look good, particularly that break even of 1. We did say he'd bottomed out in price last week, and I did trade him, but I was chasing the extra money from Fuller. Might not have. I panned out a little bit, I suppose. I did get a bit of money out of Fuller so far. But with Tedesco, if you bring him in, you've only got him for 3 weeks, and then he's into Origin, so he won't play round 13. Roosters have to buy round 14. So, you're only going to get him 1 out of those 4 games between 13 and 16. So, you're probably going to have to trade him back out, which isn't ideal. So, yeah, I wouldn't trade him in. Obviously, if you've got him, you hold him. I'm not saying trade him out. I'm just saying I wouldn't trade him in. And the slap, I've gone with Charles Nickel clock starts, a little bit like Armstrong. Wasn't the best conditions for his style of footy, which is obviously very busy and in around the ball all the time. So I would, hold him if you've got him. He's very similar to Drinkwater, so I can see people moving across, taking advantage of the Cowboys' good draw, upcoming buy coverage. But I think, any other play other than that, I'd probably, stick with CNK. But yeah, that wraps up the tops, chops, traps, and slaps video for round 10 of the 2024 NRL SuperCoach season. As always, if you've got any thoughts or comments, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy this sort of analysis, and I guess I have added in the prices and break evens as per some of the comments. So give us a like if you enjoy that little added extra. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel, and other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.